Hello, and welcome to Eye of the Beholder, where we review the Dungeons and Dragons miniatures created by WOTC and WizKids in the 20 years between 2003 and 2023. We'll be continuing our exploration of the denizens of the Nine Hells, picking things back up with the Chain Devil. Also known as chitons, they draw their names from the chains that wrap around their body. In some cases, only the throat, a single eye, and a grinning mouth are visible. The chains aren't just for clothing, they are covered in barbs and many end in sharp hooks. And be wary, the chains have a much longer reach than you would expect.
We get our first Chain Devil in WotC's Angel Fire set of 2005. First off, I love this pose as it positions its body in profile to limit exposure while holding two chain ends in each hand, one with a spear tip and the other with a spiked mace. The chains themselves are nicely detailed. Also, note both the medallion on his torso and the tattoos on his back. This is a more than solid early mini. Score: Paint 16, Pose 21, Playability 15, Pizzazz 20, for a score of 72. Four years later, we get our second Chain Devil mini in 2009's Monster Manual Dangerous Delve set. With this one, we get a chiton that is definitely on the move, striding forward with purpose, chains no doubt jangling as he moves into battle. Both arms are low to the body and have multiple hooks at the end of the chains, which would be truly terrifying in battle. I also like how the chains completely envelop his head, with only a small slit for the eyes. Score: Paint 16, Pose 22, Playability 16, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 76. We get our one and only WizKids Chain Devil in the Baldar's Gate Descent into Avernus set, and if you watched my last video, you already know about the Legion subtypes. Well, this Legion Chain Devil is even better detailed than either WotC version, with the chains swirling off both arms demonstrate the potential reach of these weapons. I'm not a fan of the breastplate and studded leather skirt. It's a chain devil, for crying out loud. But that being said, it's very well done. Score: Paint 18, Pose 20, Playability 13, Pizzazz 23, for a score of 74.
Irenes are fiercely beautiful, ruthless in their cunning, and completely wicked. They are the furies of the Nine Hells, dispensing justice and retribution to all denizens of the plane. They are implacable hunters, using their ability to fly to track their quarry. Fun fact, like beautiful women everywhere, they can charm like nobody's business, to the point that the target of their charms will defend her to the death if necessary.
We get our first Irenes in WotC's third set, 2004's Archfiends. Pose is interesting as she stands on point on one leg while raising her sword high above her head in an Amazonian pose. Her scantily clad body is clothed in just a few strategically placed leather strips. The brown wings show off a nice feathery detail, and check out her behind. No, not like that, you perverts. Note the three throwing daggers slung low to her body. Nice facial detailing as well, so at the risk of appearing to be what I just chided you all for, score 100. Our next miniature has a different take on what an Irenes should look like. Called an Inspired Lieutenant, this mini comes from 2006's War Drum set. Here, she trades her wings for a flowing blue cloak with black trim and silver detailing partially obscured by her long flowing hair. Poses of giving orders, she holds a dual-tipped staff in her right hand. The plate mailing covering her torso is very well done, and we do get a bit of leg peeking out from below the cloak. Score: Paint 17, Pose 14, Playability 14, Pizzazz 18, for a score of 63. WizKids gives us our first airborne Irenes in 2016's Monster Menagerie set. Posed on a very tall and very thin stand, her body is parallel to the ground as she soars over her foes, brown wings fully outstretched and sword at the ready. Interesting detail, this is our only Irenes mini to add a lasso to the sculpt, which is a traditional second weapon employed by these devils. The body position makes it hard to see facial detailing, but I do like the horned helmet. Score: Paint 15, Pose 21, Playability 20, Pizzazz 22, for a score of 78. Our final Irenes mini comes 3 years later in 2019's Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus set, and yes, it's a Legion Irenes. First off, I think the pose, which appears to have it veering off to the right, is intentional. The thick translucent stand is immune to the hot-cold water treatment. This particular Irenes is covered head to toe in plate mail, with only the red of her wings offering any contrast. One plus, this is our only uncommon version, so probably the easiest to get. Score: Paint 13, Pose 18, Playability 20, Pizzazz 15, for a score of 56.
Fire Hellions used to be fire giants, but their bloodlust and love of warfare led them to strike a deal with powerful devils, changing them into devilish fiends themselves. Despite their savage appearance, they are quite intelligent, with some actually able to wield magic along with all their other supernatural abilities, which of course includes the ability to hurl fireballs at will.
Man, this is so cool. Our only Fire Hellion mini comes from 2023's Big Beast Presents Glory of the Giants set, and it's pretty much an exact match to the book art. Let's get to the obvious first. The flaming mace of translucent orange is awesome. Grinning maniacally, he holds his weapon high above his head, ready to wreak fiery destruction on his foes. The armor is muted but impressive, plate covering his shoulders and torso with gauntlets to match. Cloven hooves and a swirling tail complete the look. Score: Paint 16, Pose 18, Playability 12, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 71.
Horned devils, also known as Cornigons, are the first-rate defense troops of the Nine Hells, acting as personal protectors to archdevils and powerful pit fiends. With their bat-like wings, horned heads, and serpentine tails, they are perhaps the most devilish-looking of the devils. They are also the most loyal of the devils, willing to lay down their existence to protect their superiors.
We get our first horned devil in WOTC's Blood War set of 2006. Cornigons usually fight with either spiked chains or forked spears, and this one goes with the former with terrifying effect. Standing solidly before all foes, his jet black body and wings are dotted with spikes and spurs, with a grayish underbelly for contrast. The head is almost dragon-esque, with a long jaw studded with teeth, red eyes, and twin horns at the forehead. Score: Paint 22, Pose 20, Playability 17, Pizzazz 25, for a score of 84. WizKids gives us their version of the Horned Devil in 2019's Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus set, and listen, it's a Legion Horned Devil, which is a damn shame. Based on the wide grin it displays beneath the face shield, I really want to see the rest of its face. WizKids goes with a completely different way with their version, with a bright yellow hide covered with bits of plate and tan wings. They also go with a military fork as the weapon, along with a massive triangular shield. Finally, the thick stand allows it to be posed in midair as it towers high above its hapless foes. Score: Paint 25, Pose 25, Playability 15, pizzazz 25 for a score of 90.
Ice devils, also known as Dungons, are perhaps the most distinctive of devil kind, looking like giant ice blue praying mantises. They are savage in battle, fighting usually with a long spear but equally adept with tooth and claw, and watch out for the long barbed tail. They also earn their name as they surround themselves with an aura of numbing cold that slows their opponents.
WOTC gives us our first Ice Devil in 2006's Blood War set. The purplish monochrome body has a bit of a whitewash for detailing, with yellow eyes staring out from its insectoid face. Armed with its signature large spear, I particularly like the oversized spear blade. I also really like the very long tail that winds to and fro. Stretched out, it would easily be longer than the devil's body and easily capable of striking foes at distance. Score: Paint 14, Pose 15, Playability 15, Pizzazz 23 for a score of 67. Two years later, we get this voracious Ice Devil in 2008's Against the Giants set. Here, we get an ice blue body rather than the purple from the previous one, also armed with a spear held in his left hand while he aggressively gestures with his right, as if exhorting its troops to follow his lead. I do wish the spear was a bit sturdier. As you can see, I left it in the plastic protector as I didn't want to risk breaking it. Score: Paint 14, Pose 15, Playability 15, Pizzazz 18 for a score of 62. WizKids 2019 Baldur's Gate Descent into Avernus Legion Ice Devil. It's getting a bit old. Much smaller in stature than the WOTC versions, we are back to purple for the body, albeit somewhat covered by the helmet, face mask, pauldrons, and reinforced loincloth. Crouched and holding his spear point out, I can see getting a few of these to form a spear line, as it is our only uncommon Gurlagon. Score: Paint 13, Pose 14, Playability 15, Pizzazz 15 for a score of 57.
While imps are among the weakest of the infernal hierarchy, they are the most vicious pound for pound. Tasked with grooming and corrupting mortals to evil, they are probably the most common devils found on the mortal plane. They are the proverbial devil on your shoulder, whispering poisonous thoughts. Fun fact, imps can take on the form of many different creatures, disguising their true nature while they work their insidious schemes.
We get our first imp in the Angel Fire set of 2005. WOTC sets it on a tiny base that makes it a bit unstable. Otherwise, it's an excellent miniature. Detailing is tough to see, but the crouching pose and the unfurled wings makes it appear about to take flight, and the maniacal grin on its face is just fantastic. I also like the way the tail whips around to the front, just icing on the cake. Score: Paint 13, Pose 18, Playability 18, Pizzazz 18 for a score of 67. If you're going to call a miniature a grinning imp, shouldn't the grin be more pronounced? WOTC gives us this many in their Demon Web set of 2008, and it's fine. The blood red of the body has a bit of shine to it, and if you look closely, you can see spots of yellow for eyes, but where's the grin? Posed chicken-like with feet together and wings spread, it's usable, but I'm not crazy about it. Score: Paint 11, Pose 12, Playability 15, Pizzazz 12 for a score of 50. WizKids' first imp miniature from 2016's Monster Menagerie set is Airborne. Posed on a thin but surprisingly sturdy post, we get a devil in full flight, wings outstretched and tail whipping behind in its wake. Detailing is almost non-existent, but we do get the yellow eyes against the monochrome red of the face and body. Score: Paint 12, Pose 16, Playability 15, Pizzazz 13, for a score of 56. Our last imp comes from, you know what? I'm not going to say it. You already know. It's a Legion imp. Ta-da! To be fair, it's probably the most playable of the various Legion devils, as its face mask is almost impossible to see against the red of the body. Even cooler, note the translucent orange flame streaming off its body as it hops along the ground, wings extended to help with balance. Score: Paint 15, Pose 15, Playability 19, Pizzazz 14, for a score of 63.
And that brings us to the end of Devils Part 2. We'll finish up with all things Devilkind in our next video. As always, I thank each and every one of you for watching. Please leave a comment if you like. I respond to all of them. So, until next time, I, the Beholder, wishing you a good night.